many people don't really like insects. They associate them with bites and stings and spread of disease, and they have no idea how important they are to us. So insects make up the majority of life on Earth in terms of numbers of species are insects, about 60%, and most of the rest feeds on insects. So even if you don't like insects, most people quite like to see beautiful birds in the landscape. And most bird species eat insects, as do bats and frogs and toads and lizards and all sorts of other creatures. And then also insects do lots of important things like pollinating flowers that we depend upon. So about a third of the food we eat is reliant upon insect pollinators visiting the flowers, without which we wouldn't get tomatoes or blueberries or strawberries or raspberries and so on. So we couldn't feed the human population without insects, and people need to understand that and treat them with respect. So yeah, I mean, insects are sadly declining so far as we can tell, and we absolutely have to do something about that. There are lots of things people can do themselves to help. Turning our gardens into kind of mini nature reserves is one really easy option that could make a difference if we could get enough people involved in doing it. Just in the UK, I don't know the figure for Germany, but the UK we have 500,000 hectares of gardens. Just so imagine they were all full of the right kinds of flowers to feed butterflies and bumblebees and so on. And we discourage people from using pesticides in their gardens, which I don't think there's any need for at all. Then we could immediately create a kind of network of little miniature nature reserves. But we also need to find ways to grow food, to farm, that are more insect friendly, and that's one of the bigger problems because the majority of land is farmland. And I think the current kind of intensive farming model with lots and lots of pesticides is one of the big drivers of insect decline. So we need to find ways to grow food more sustainably, essentially, without wiping out biodiversity. And there are options, there are models out there for doing that, but it's maybe too big a subject for me to try and go into now. I mean, most companies that produce biocides deny that their products do harm. So it's really refreshing to meet someone, a company that produces these products, which actually is very open about the fact that they're harmful, that they kill insects, and that's trying to do something at least to mitigate that harm. So it's really interesting, and I wish every company that made pesticides had this same kind of approach. At the end of the day, I'd prefer it if we didn't make any insecticides at all. But if you're going to sell them, then also encouraging people to use them sparingly and to show respect to insects, because they're really important. They deserve respect. And also they're beautiful, fascinating creatures, aside from the practical things they do for us. So, you know, we're making people aware that these insects are valuable and something that we should treat respectfully can only be a good thing. I wish all people, economists, were concerned about the environment. I think part of the reason the world is in the mess it is in is because we are so focused on money and growing our economies and haven't stopped to think about the long-term consequences for the planet that we all share. So any move towards big business considering the environmental impacts of what they do, has got to be a step in the right direction.